He thought I was gone, that I'd die quietly in that hospital bed and take the farm with me. He leaned over my body, looked at my father, and said the words that changed everything. We need to think about the land before it's too late. But I wasn't gone. I heard him, every single word. My name is Mark Ellison. I'm 34. I've worked the same soil my grandfather bought with his bare hands. For 18 years, I woke before sunrise, fed cattle before breakfast, and ran irrigation lines in below zero winters. While my brother was out selling condos in Texas, I was here, keeping the land alive. So when my truck flipped that Tuesday morning outside Billings, and they said I might not wake up, he came home, not to help, but to claim. He smiled in front of nurses. He whispered in hallways. And when the room was quiet, he laid out his plan. Steal the farm, sell it off, disappear richer. What he didn't know was that my body may have been broken, but my mind was wide awake. And from that moment on, I started writing the story you're about to hear. This isn't a story about death. It's about betrayal and what happens when you bet against the wrong man. If you've ever felt powerless, if someone ever tried to bury you before you were gone, then stay right here. And if you want to hear more true revenge stories, you know where the subscribe button is. My name is Mark Ellison. I'm 34 years old, and I've lived my whole life on the same stretch of land just outside Billings, Montana. 200 acres of wheat cattle in silence, land that smells like promise in the spring and hard lessons in the fall. Land my grandfather bought with borrowed money and calloused hands in 1956. Land my father held onto through droughts, debt, and decades of work. I was the one who stayed. The one who didn't leave for college, didn't chase anything beyond the next season's harvest. While my brother Logan sent postcards from Austin, I sent grain trucks to town before dawn. I knew every fence post by feel, every irrigation line by sound. I'd driven that tractor before I could legally drive a car. Some folks think farm life is slow, but it teaches you one thing fast, what matters and what doesn't. You learn to listen to the wind, to fix things with your hands, to earn what's yours. This land didn't just raise me, it made me. And I always thought it would be mine. Not because I was owed it, but because I earned it. I never asked for more, just the chance to keep what we built. But turns out, even on land this solid, things can shift underneath you. Logan is my older brother, 4 years older, 400 miles away, and 4 lifetimes removed from everything this farm ever meant. He left the day after high school graduation, didn't even stay for the family dinner. Took off to Austin, Texas with a suitcase full of dreams and 0 plans to come back. While I learned how to rotate crops, he learned how to rotate stock options, marketing real estate city life. He lived in high-rises and flew first class. We were different, always were. I liked dirt under my nails. He liked Rolexes on his wrist. But I never hated him. Truth is, I was proud of him. He made something of himself. At least, that's what I told myself. He'd come home once or twice a year. Thanksgiving, Dad's birthday. Smile big, hug quick, then disappear before sunrise. But last Christmas, he stayed a little longer. Asked a few more questions. How much is the land worth these days? Has Dad updated the will? What happens if something goes wrong? I brushed it off. Logan always talked like that, like life was a spreadsheet. But now, looking back, those questions weren't casual. They were calculated. And when I ended up in that hospital bed, fighting to breathe, he saw his chance. He came back, not for family, not for me, but for the land. It happened on a Tuesday. I was hauling a load back from the grain elevator. Same stretch of road I'd driven 1,000 times. 1 second I was adjusting the radio. Next thing I knew, a tire blew. The truck rolled. Glass, metal, silence, then nothing. They said I was lucky to survive. Said the machine was breathing for me. Said I might not wake up. But here's what they didn't know. I could hear everything. Not at first, but by day 2, the sound started bleeding through. Footsteps, whispers, machines clicking. And then I heard him, Logan, standing by my bed, talking to Dad. He might not make it, he said. We need to think about the farm. Just like that. Like I was already gone. Dad's voice cracked. I can't talk about this, son. Logan stayed calm, smooth, practiced. Joseph wouldn't want things to fall apart. He loved this place. Let me help protect it just until we know more. That's when I realized this wasn't grief. This was strategy. He wasn't waiting for me to wake up. He was preparing for me not to. And while my body lay still, my mind lit up. Not with fear, not with pain, but with one cold, clear thought. He's taking what's mine. And when I get out of this bed, I'm taking it back. The next few days blurred together. I couldn't move, couldn't blink, couldn't scream, but I could hear every voice, every footstep, every lie. Logan came back the next night. Same calm tone, same fake concern. He talked about contingency plans, probate, tax protection. He said things like, "This is just temporary. We're only safeguarding the property. If Joseph recovers, we'll fix it." And Dad, God bless him, he wanted to believe that. But I knew that tone in Logan's voice. I'd heard it before. When he wanted something, he didn't ask. He just took. Our nurses came and went. Logan smiled for them, played the grieving brother. But when the room emptied, his voice dropped. Quiet, dangerous. He told Dad he'd already spoken to a lawyer. He'd drop emergency transfer documents, just in case. I heard Dad sigh, broken, tired. "Okay," he whispered. "If it's just temporary." The pen scratched. Once, twice, 3 times. And just like that, everything my grandfather built, everything I bled for, everything I thought would be mine, belonged to him. He patted Dad on the shoulder, said he'd take care of it, said I'd understand. But what he didn't know was that I already understood. And that understanding was turning into something dangerous. After Dad signed the papers, Logan didn't waste time. He called someone the next morning, out in the hallway, thinking I couldn't hear him. "Yeah, it looks pretty bad," he said. "Doctors aren't giving us much hope." I felt it in my gut. My own brother was already planning my funeral. That night, while nurses adjusted machines, he scrolled through his phone beside my bed, tapping, smiling. And then I heard it 200 acres. "I'll send the zoning maps tomorrow. This could be a hell of a deal." He wasn't just managing the farm. He was shopping it, selling it, and I was still breathing. The next day, he met a lawyer at Dad's house. They stayed in the kitchen for hours. When Dad returned to the hospital, he held my hand and cried. "I'm sorry, son. I didn't know what else to do." That was the moment it clicked. This wasn't desperation. This was preparation. Logan didn't come back because he cared. He came because he calculated. He saw a business opportunity, an asset, an exit strategy. And worst of all, he was good at it, polished, convincing. He had a timeline. He had buyers. He had a narrative. And unless I did something fast, he'd have the farm, the money, the legacy, and I'd have nothing. Except one thing he didn't expect. I was awake, and I remembered everything. On the 12th day, my fingers twitched. On the 13th, my eyes opened. Logan was there, with fake tears and practiced grief. "Thank God," he whispered. We were so worried. I looked up at him, smiled just enough. "Thanks for everything." He believed it, believed I was weak, confused, helpless, and I let him believe it. For the next week, I played the role perfectly. Quiet, grateful, a little foggy, asking gentle questions, letting him explain the temporary transfer like it was no big deal. He smiled when I nodded, called me champ, said, "You'll be back on your feet in no time." And I agreed. I agreed with everything. But behind that polite smile, I was watching, listening, memorizing every name he dropped, every call he took in Dad's kitchen, every piece of paper he left on the table. He thought he was buying time, but I was buying information. He thought I was recovering, but I was studying him, because if I wanted to beat him, I had to know exactly how far he was willing to go. Turns out pretty damn far, but not farther than me. 3 days after I got home, I made my first move. Dad was resting. Logan was running errands in town. I had the house to myself. I went into the attic. Dust cobwebs and 40 years of storage. But I wasn't looking for furniture or old photos. I was looking for Grandpa's lockbox. And I found it, right where I remembered, buried under old tarps and broken tools. Inside deeds, maps, handwritten agreements, and one envelope faded, yellowed, sealed with wax. Inside that envelope was the game changer, A contract dated 1972, signed by my grandfather and the Montana State Agricultural Department. It read, "This land is entered into permanent agricultural preservation, zoned for farm use only. No residential or commercial development permitted. Transferable with deed." I sat there holding the paper like it was gold, because to me it was. Logan had no idea. He thought he could sell the farm to a developer, flip it, profit. But that contract, it made all of that illegal. The land couldn't be subdivided, couldn't be rezoned, couldn't be touched, unless you broke the law. Unless you lied. Which, knowing Logan, he already had. I didn't scream, didn't storm into the kitchen with that contract, didn't tell Dad, didn't confront Logan. No, that would have been too easy, too loud, too soon. Instead, I got strategic. Step 1, Pete Morrison, our family lawyer, quiet, loyal, still owed Grandpa a favor or two. I called him, told him nothing but asked everything. "Pete, I need to know the legal status of the farm. Quietly. No one can know you're helping me." He came by the next morning. We met in the barn, just like Grandpa used to do business. Pete opened his old leather briefcase, pulled out maps, zoning documents, copies of the preservation agreement. "Still valid," he said. "Still binding. Anyone who tries to develop that land will be facing serious legal trouble." Good. That's what I needed to hear. Step 2, I called every farmer whose land bordered ours. Tom Bradley, Marty Shaw, the Ramirez family. I asked them one thing. If someone tried to build houses here, would it affect your water lines, your road access, your crops? Every one of them said the same thing. We'd sue. Perfect. Step 3. I started documenting everything Logan said and did. Who he called, what he printed, what he signed. He had no idea. While he thought I was napping, I was gathering ammunition, and soon I'd have enough to pull the trigger. Logan thought he was in control. Thought I was just grateful to be alive. Thought I'd given up. So I gave him what he needed most, reassurance. One evening, while he sipped coffee at the table, I brought it up casually. "So, Dad mentioned you've been managing the farm's finances. I appreciate that." He perked up, smiled like a man halfway through the sale. "Just trying to help brother." I leaned in like I trusted him. "Actually, I've been thinking, maybe it's best if I buy the farm back from you." He froze, carefully set his mug down. "Oh well, yeah, that could work, but I've already put in a lot. Legal fees, consultations, time." "How much are we talking?" I asked. He didn't hesitate. 60,000, minimum. I nodded like it was nothing. "Give me 2 weeks. I'll talk to the bank. Maybe get a partner." He smiled. And just like that, he was hooked. He thought I was desperate. Thought I'd beg, borrow, bleed. But what he didn't know was that I'd already made the call. Tom Bradley, my neighbor, my ally, willing to front the 60,000 just for the satisfaction of watching Logan lose. I didn't need money. I needed pressure. And Logan, he was about to feel it where it hurt most. His wallet and his pride. The following Monday, Logan walked into Dad's kitchen like a man arriving to collect a trophy. Briefcase in hand, smile loaded, confidence oozing. "This is it," he said. "Let's get this done." He thought I'd be sitting alone, pen in hand, desperate to reclaim my life. But he didn't expect what waited for him. Tom Bradley sat at the table. Next to him, Pete Morrison, the state agricultural rep, and my new land use attorney. Logan stopped in the doorway, blinking. What's this?" "Just making sure everything's legal and proper," I said. He tried to keep his cool, but I could see it. The twitch in his jaw, the pulse in his neck. Pete slid the deed transfer documents across the table. The rep from the state laid out the preservation agreement. Any attempt to sell or develop this land, he said, would be a violation of state law. Logan stammered. I didn't know." "That's not a legal defense," the attorney replied. "And lying to 3 developers, that's fraudulent misrepresentation." Tom handed him a check. Exactly 60,000. Logan stared at it like it was poison. "That covers your expenses," I said. "Nothing more." He looked around the room, cornered, exposed, stripped of every angle he thought he had. He signed, because he had no choice. And just like that, the farm came back to where it belonged. And Logan, he started to vanish. Logan packed in silence. No grand speeches, no apologies, just boxes, and the sound of something crumbling inside him. He had planned it all, mapped it out like a real estate deal, right down to the final signature. But what he hadn't planned for was losing. The day after he left Montana, I got a call from someone in Austin. Apparently, Logan's company found out about the misused work hours, the personal emails sent on corporate time, the fraudulent property dealings. They let him go, quietly, permanently. Then Jessica, his girlfriend, found out about the loans, the fake promises, the life he built on lies. She left too. Last I heard, he moved to a one-bedroom apartment in Spokane, selling office supplies, driving a used sedan. No more condos, no more watches, no more leverage. But it wasn't the job he lost, or the money, or the girl. It was the story. The story he told himself that he was smarter, better, untouchable. And when that story broke, so did he. He thought the land would make him powerful, but it just made him greedy. And greed in silence is the loudest downfall of all. The deed was back in my name. Official, recorded, untouchable. No loopholes, no footnotes, no temporary arrangements. Just mine. The land my grandfather bought. The land my father worked. The land I bled for. I walked the perimeter that evening, boots crunching against gravel, the wind moving like it always had. Unchanged. Honest. Tom Bradley stood at the fence line, hands in his pockets. "You did it," he said. I nodded, didn't smile, didn't celebrate. Just breathed, because it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about restoration. Logan had tried to erase my legacy, turn it into a transaction. But some things can't be priced, can't be flipped, can't be replaced. They have to be earned, held, fought for. That land, it wasn't just dirt, it was memory, sacrifice, bloodline, and now it was home again. Without signatures hanging over it, without threats buried in fine print, just rows of wheat and sky and peace. We never spoke about it again. Not me, not Dad, not the neighbors. Some wounds don't need words. They just stop bleeding on their own. Dad started sleeping better after Logan left. No more tension at the table. No more late night whispers on the phone. He'd walk the fields with me in the mornings, quiet, hands behind his back, like he used to. Sometimes he'd look out and say, "I thought I lost everything," and I'd nod, because so did I. 6 months later, Logan's name was a ghost. Just another silence in our story. He lost his job, his girl, his condo, and eventually his sense of who he was. Last I heard, he was living in a rental outside Spokane, selling office supplies to companies smaller than the lies he once told. I never sent him a message, never picked up when he called once, then stopped trying. He got his $60,000, but he lost something bigger. He lost the story. Because when you betray blood, you don't just lose family, you lose your reflection. And that's a price no check can cover. Me. I kept the land, the work, the truth. And every morning when the sun breaks over that field, I remember he thought I'd die in that hospital bed. But that's where I started planning. I don't believe in revenge. Not the kind with fists or fire. Not the kind that leaves bodies in the dirt. No, the real kind is quieter. It's patience. It's knowledge. It's watching someone build their own trap and letting them walk straight into it. Logan thought he knew how the world worked. Thought people were assets. Thought family was leverage. But land doesn't lie. It remembers who broke it, who fed it, who walked it with calloused hands and tired shoulders. This farm never needed Logan, but it needed me. And now, I wake up before dawn again. Same boots, same roads. But something's different. The silence isn't heavy anymore. It's peaceful. No lies echoing in the hallway. No signatures hanging over my head. Just the hum of wind through wheat, and the memory of what almost slipped away. Justice didn't come with noise, or applause, or headlines. It came with paper, truth, and time. And when people ask why I didn't fight back louder, I just smile. Because sometimes the best revenge is walking the same land they tried to take from you, alone, proud, and free. Have you ever trusted someone and they turned it into a weapon? Not a stranger, not an enemy, but someone who shared your blood, your table, your memories. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come with shouting. It comes with silence, with a signature, with a smile that says everything's fine while they take everything behind your back. Maybe you've lived through something like that, or maybe you're living it right now. If this story felt close to home, even a little too close, you're not alone. We tell stories like this, stories of quiet revenge, of dignity reclaimed, of justice that doesn't scream, but whispers just loud enough to be heard. So if you've ever had to fight for something that was already yours, if you've ever held your pain in silence while planning your next move, this is your space. And if you want to hear more true stories like this, real people, real betrayal, real consequences, then stick around, click subscribe, because sometimes the best stories aren't just told, they're remembered.